And welcome to the aquarium at uShaka SeaWorld. And what we're actually looking at and starting with is our magnificent whale skeleton that is actually just behind me, which is a southern right whale. Now we do refer to her as Misty, and with Misty you may notice that she does have a metal piece in her mouth because this is a real whale skeleton. Now with Misty, how she did end up here is that unfortunately she did break her jaw, and therefore she was unable to actually feed. So with her, normally she is a baleen whale, which means she does have bristles in her mouth that allows her to filter tiny little zooplankton from the ocean. By eating this, she's able to eat about 600 kilograms a day and actually live a nice long life. But unfortunately in her case, she did collide with a ship, causing her to break that jaw, and unfortunately that's the reason that it's here. However, we are now raising awareness to remind you guys that that's why if we can buy local, it is better because it prevents the ship traffic across the ocean. So everyone, now that we're at the bottom of the ramp and we're now about to enter the aquarium, we'd like to welcome you to the bottom of the ocean on our underneath water journey. So just behind me you can see one of our dive suits that were used back in the day, and of course it just kind of shows us how our life has simplified thanks to technology, whereas back in the day they did have to use the oxygen. So guys, welcome to our Snorkel lagoon. So when you do come to the aquarium, this would be your first stop on your way through, and you notice that as you go along, our ecosystems within the exhibits will change. Now here, this would normally represent an inshore environment where we do have some of our fish that will go out in the wild to have a nursery area for your smaller animals. So they usually will go there to spawn, and when those little babies hatch, they're able to spend time there and be safe because they don't have huge predators. Now, as much as I do say that, you might come across some sharks that are going across, and those are smooth hound sharks. Now, with these guys, they do not have sharp teeth like the other animals or the other sharks that we'll see later on. They do have your pavement jaws that they use to crush and get, like your exoskeletons of your crustacean and your lobsters, to get the meat from inside. So normally guys, when you are actually looking at the fish, and I did say that it would normally be a safer area for your smaller fish, as much as I say that you might see the hound sharks going by. Now with our hound sharks, remember, they are much different from our larger sharks that we'll see later on, because they've got a pavement jaw which they will use to crush their food, and they will eat things like lobsters and crustacean like your crabs to get that food and that meat from inside. Guys, another fish that's incredible in this exhibit is our parrotfish, and why I say this is many of the animals have incredible adaptations to actually keep them safe. Now with this parrotfish at night, it actually it kind of secretes a mucus along its body. It's a big bubble, so it actually has this very smelly mucus that covers its body. Now it might sound very, very disgusting, but it's so important for that animal because I'm pretty sure you wouldn't want to go anywhere close to that animal. Just like that, it will keep it safe from predators, that at night it can get a nice rest, and in the morning it ingests it and it happily moves on to its way. This is a parrotfish here, the blue and peach one. So guys, you're just currently looking at a coachman. And we've got a brown surgeon that's just come into the picture. You can see them picking up some little leftovers in the sand. We've also got a wrasse that's gone through, and that is a yellowfin surgeon. That is one of our baby hound sharks. So there were 6 that were born in this exhibit. Those are the tail moonies. That is a unicorn surgeonfish. Unicorn surgeonfish. But they're all the same type. They are East Coast rock lobsters. So guys, just here we do have our rock lobsters. Now a lot of the time they do get confused for crayfish, but generally that's a term that's used overseas in areas like America. But one of the biggest differences between your crayfish and your lobsters, your rock lobsters, would be that with your rock lobsters you do find them in your marine environments, whereas with crayfish they are found in freshwater areas. So guys, just behind me we do have our Finding Nemo exhibit, and you might be able to see little Nemo in there, which is our clownfish, and he does live inside a sea anemone. Now they do have a really important relationship where that clownfish is actually able to stay safe, because a sea anemone, it is actually an animal and it does have stinging tentacles. So if there's any other fish that would come closer, they will get stung. Whereas with your clownfish, they do have a mucus on their body that keeps them safe so that they don't get stung, and they'll help keep that sea anemone clean as well. Now we're going to be looking at an octopus, and our octopus is absolutely incredible in the sense that they do have specialized cells that help them to change colors as well as textures. That's why when you do look at him, you'll be able to see him hiding in the rocks, but he is camouflaged. Now with an octopus, because it doesn't have any bones like you and me, it will be able to fit through a little hole as long as its eye and its beak can fit through there. So no matter how tiny it is, if it's able to fit through there with its eye and its beak, it can actually squeeze into very, very small spaces, like you will see it when it is hiding away. I don't know, he's normally fairly interactive, but... Come on. Are you gonna come on? You wanna come on? just as you can see, our octopus is hiding. You might notice that he does have a shell with him. So there are some animals that will use this as protection. So he's just enjoying. We will give this to the animal as stimulation as well. Here we're looking at a cuttlefish. It is related to the octopus, and that's why you may actually notice him exhibiting some color changes now and then, because he does have that ability to manipulate those skin cells and actually change his colors. So you can see the guy just in front of you. He is having that black spot at the back, and you can start to see it disappearing. Guys, this is DJ. So this is saying hi to DJ, which is short for Davy Jones. Now you might notice that she's just lying at the back there, trying to make herself comfortable. What's incredible about turtles is that unlike tortoise that live on land, turtles can be in the water, but remember, they still are air breathers. They will be able to take a gulp of air and stay down like that for 4 to 6 hours. Now as we do move across, you will be able to see Wasabi. Now, she's a very special animal here at uShaka SeaWorld because she does suffer from chronic arthritis. And she is a green turtle, so you will notice that she does have a very straight mouth, very much like the little turtle that's just behind her, which is Calypso. Now, with these animals, a lot of them do come to us for rehabilitation. And what would happen is, if they are okay to get back to the ocean, we will release them afterwards. We also do have Napoleon that is at the back there. Now with Napoleon, you will notice that he does have a very large tail. So with males, they normally do have much larger tails, whereas with a female, you will notice they've got a much shorter tail. Guys, looking at turtles, did you guys know that our litter, if it does end up in the ocean, it could cause a huge problem for these animals, because sea jellies are a part of some of them's diet. So very much like DJ that is lying at the bottom. You will be able to notice that she is very popular eating sea jellies. So what would happen is she might be one of those animals that do confuse it for plastic. And they will ingest the plastic and then have problems later on as they feel full, and they will actually starve without knowing it. Welcome to our rocky reef exhibit. Now in here, guys, you will notice that we do have a lot of rocks. So a bit different from what you will see just now in our open ocean exhibit. So this is an offshore rocky environment where these animals will be able to hide between rocks. If you do look at their tails, they do have much rounder tails or straighter tails. That indicates that they're not that fast swimmers. So they will utilize those places to be able to hide. Now, what's incredible about these animals is that a lot of them are endemic to Southern Africa, which means that we do not find them anywhere else in the world. They also are very slow growing animals, or they actually will get to have a very long lifespan. So like the zebrafish that you do see here with the stripes, he can get to about 33 years of age. And what is also quite incredible is that some of them undergo sex changes. So they may start their life off as a female and then turn into a male at a later stage, or the opposite way around. Now this usually will be triggered either by some social behavior or as they reach a certain size or a certain age in their life. Now, having looked at the fish that we just saw at the Rocky Reef exhibit, a lot of them are very good eating fish. And yes, it is okay to eat seafood, but we do have to ensure that we eat it sustainably. So, here in South Africa, we're really lucky that we do have an initiative that's called SASSI, which is the South African Sustainable Seafood Initiative, and they divide fish onto 3 different lists for us. So whatever is on the green list is okay to eat, they are sustainable and they do grow fast. Whatever's on the orange list we should think twice about, and whatever's on the red list we should not be eating. So here we do have our open ocean exhibit, and one of the most popular animals in here is our stingrays. If you do look at the middle of their tail, you will be able to see a barb that they do use for stinging. So they will use it as protection. So they're not dangerous animals, but again, if something is trying to harm them, they will be able to use that to defend themselves. If you look at a lot of the fish that's coming past now, you will notice that their tail shapes are very V-shaped, what we refer to as forked shape. And this adaptation these animals do have to be able to be faster swimmers in this environment. Remember, they've got to be fast because there's no areas for hiding like we have seen in some of our other exhibits. So what would happen is they've got to be fast to catch food as well as hide. Now with little tripod here, she is one of our animals that is a rescue. You may notice that she's missing her left front limb, but she has a really nice story because with her, she actually healed properly before she could come to us. So there was other issues she was experiencing, and that's the reason that she's here at uShaka SeaWorld. But showing us that she is strong, normally we wouldn't actually really release an animal that doesn't have a limb, but because she's strong enough, she might be an animal that might head back to the ocean. Here you might have noticed our beautiful sea jellies. Oh, wait a minute, that doesn't really look like sea jellies because that, guys, is plastic. So did you know, very much like I mentioned before, that turtles sometimes will confuse plastic for sea jellies. They do end up eating it, and it does then cause problems for that animal. So whenever we can, it's really important that we put our litter in the bin. Welcome to our large shark gallery. Now, just behind me, guys, we do have 4 species of sharks. So you might be able to see the guy with the white edge to his dorsal fin, which is the fin at the top. That is our silver-tip shark. There's one that is coming closer right now. We also do have the large sharks that you will see in this exhibit, and there is one that's just coming by me now. That is a spotted ragged-tooth shark. Now, something impressive that you will notice, they do have many rows of teeth. As he comes by, you will be able to see that. So when one drops off, another one will replace it. Now, with sharks as well, you will notice, sorry guys, just above him we do have the dark fin there. That is our green reef shark. And then of course the one that's moving at the bottom, which is our guitar fish. Now, as much as I say that, as he moves across, you will notice he looks like he has a very smooth body. That's because with sharks, they do not have scales like our other bony fish do. So when you do touch a shark from its head to its tail, it's really smooth, but the other way around, it will feel like sandpaper, and that's because they've got little tiny teeth on their skin, which is called dermal denticles. Right now we are looking at Stanley. He's one of our brindle bass that we will find in the exhibit along with Dion. And with them, they are very, very huge fish. They get to about 400 kilograms. And with them, they are protected here in South Africa. are looking at these different types of shark jaws, we do have a ragged shark jaw on the left hand side, like the shark that we just saw. So you will notice small hook teeth that they will use to grab and shake around their food, very much like us eating a piece of meat with a fork. Just next to it, you can see in comparison a little different big triangular teeth, which is of our great white shark. He will use that teeth like a knife and be able to cut through to eat bigger things like your seals and turtles. Of course, earlier we got to meet our smooth hound shark, and he's got a jaw more like this, which is called, it has pavement teeth that they normally will use to crush their food. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, as much as I mentioned this, remember that they actually do not eat people. They will actually confuse us with food, like those seals, like those turtles, and make a mistake and then bite us. And just behind me, we do have some corals, and these are hard corals that we are looking at. Now, you will notice that beautiful coloration that they do have, and of course, the beautiful fish that live with them as well. So a lot of animals are adapted to be in the environments that they are, because those fish will actually camouflage among those corals. Now, with corals having that beautiful color, they normally do get it from a very special guy called zooxanthellae. Now, what this is an algae that lives inside them, and it does provide them with a color but nutrients as well. But something, guys, that's very upsetting is that when climate change occurs, so when our globe is starting to warm up, the coral will actually expel that algae, and he can't live without it. So that's when you get coral bleaching occurring. So this is the turning of them losing their color and actually becoming this white and of course kind of desolate area, because then of course remember that's an entire ecosystem that will then be gone, because these animals will not, the fish will not stay among them any longer. This just behind me is our cold water exhibit, and this is a representative of our west coast environment around southern Africa. So it's usually your colder water that has higher nutrients, like in Cape Town, where we do have these huge kelp forests. Now, one of the fish definitely that's important in this exhibit that you will see is our galleon, and that might sound very familiar because it is our national fish, as well as we do have smaller species of sharks. So you will notice some cat sharks like our pajama cat shark in here. And with your smaller species of shark, most of them do lay eggs. So we will be able to see some egg cases where we do have some embryos inside. Whereas the larger sharks that we did see already, they actually do give birth to live young. And some of them will actually have young inside that hatch inside and are then born live afterwards. Heading to the back, and there's another one here. So you see this grey fish with the white at the bottom, that's the galleons. And then this is the pajama here. So guys, this is just a picture of the egg casing that you did see. You can see how they do have the embryo with a little yolk in there. That embryo will feed off that yolk, and as he grows, he will fill up that space, and when he gets a bit too big, he will bite a hole and escape. Now, we always do look at sharks as being animals that are really vicious, or we also have the assumption, like we explained, that they mistakenly do attack us. But what would happen is, here you've got this little shark that's hatched out, and he's going to try to survive on his own. So this has been a lovely journey with you guys, but before we do leave the aquarium, there's something really, really important to say, guys. Normally with our litter, we sometimes do take for granted, and we will actually just throw it through the car window, or we might throw it onto the floor. But you can see just behind me what potentially could be a situation and what it could look like. So we want to make sure that our marine life is safe, as well as you and I, because essentially when this does break down, they end up consuming it, and who's eating that fish at the end of the day? We are. So it's just something to think about to make sure that we have a healthy environment for both our marine animals as well as ourselves. Guys, thank you for coming through and taking this underwater journey with me, and I hope to see you soon. There's so much to see and so much to learn, so I hope to see you here soon visiting us.